Aqara has a new motion sensor out called the P1, and while it does look familiar, it has some new features that the older version didn't have that I think you're going to like. So stick around because we're about to automate some boring stuff. Welcome back to SlackerLabs, my name is Jeff. Aqara was kind enough to send their new P1 motion sensor to me so I could do this video. They of course didn't have any influence over the content of this video, however. And for the last few weeks I've been playing around with this sensor, and I have to say I really like it. And if you're a fan of Aqara's other motion sensor, I think you're going to like this one as well. The new Aqara P1 motion sensor is an updated version of its popular PIR-based motion and motion light sensor. They provide sensors for motion, ambient light, and temperature. And thanks to two CR2450 batteries, can now last up to 5 years before the batteries need to be replaced. But battery life isn't the only improvement. With the P1, you can now adjust the internal settings, giving you more flexibility. The sensitivity of this motion sensor can now be adjusted between low, medium, and high, giving you more control over the trigger distance and providing a way to reduce false alarms. And you can change the detection timeout, dropping it to an almost instant 1 second or increasing it up as high as 3.5 minutes, allowing you to adjust how quickly the sensor resets after detecting motion. And the P1 brings Zigbee 3.0 support to the Aqara motion sensor line for faster response times and the ability for over-the-air updates in the future. It's compatible with Zigbee-based smart homes, HomeKit, as well as the Amazon and Google smart speakers, and will be getting Matter support when the new IoT standard rolls out. I think the previous version of Aqara's motion sensor is pretty popular, and I think this version is a good second iteration. The design is the same as the previous version, although it is a bit bigger and a bit heavier thanks to the two CR2450 batteries packed inside. They've also moved the button that kicks off the pairing process to the back of the device and made it a bit beefier, which makes it easier to press. But I think it's the ability to adjust the sensitivity and the detection interval on this device that's going to make it my motion sensor of choice going forward. Sensitivity defines how far that device can see, and by default it's set at medium. So depending on the placement of this sensor, you could either lower that sensitivity or raise it to help reduce false alarms. And detection interval is simply how long it takes for the device to reset after it senses motion. The older motion sensor was an unchangeable 60 seconds. But with the P1 motion sensor, we can now set that detection interval anywhere between 1 second and 200 seconds. I've talked about my room presence sensor in other videos, but it is just a template sensor that takes information from my Aqara motion sensors, my ES presence nodes, and a few other entities to try and determine which room is most likely occupied. And I'm excited about being able to adjust the detection interval, because in my use case, I'm more concerned about how much time has passed since those sensors last detected motion, and in many cases that 60 seconds delay gets in the way of that. But in terms of general integration with your smart home, you can use this sensor with any Zigbee 3.0 hub, or you could connect it to your Apple Home using the Acara M2 hub, as well as the Amazon Echo and the Google Home. And Matter support will be added via an over-the-air update to the Aqara hub after the Matter specifications are officially released. For Home Assistant fans, Zigbee to Mqtt support is in the works, or you could add it manually today as of filming using an external converter. For those of you running the ZHA integration in Home Assistant, this device will pair with that integration today. However, it only provides an identity button and the battery remaining sensor. But from what I can tell, it appears that they're working on supporting this device already. So hopefully that will be there soon. So I wanted to do some tests to see how quick this device was compared to the previous motion sensor by Aqara. So the first thing I needed to do was to get this new sensor into Home Assistant. Since I know some of you are using ZHA and I'm unclear as to how long it'll take to get this device into that integration, I wanted to demonstrate some other methods of adding this device to Home Assistant. One way is to use Apple Home if you have that, but you're going to need the Aqara M2 hub as well. But if you already have Aqara devices directly connected to your Apple Home, you may already have an Aqara hub set up. In that case, adding this device to your Apple Home is relatively easy. You just pull up the Aqara app and add that device to your Aqara hub. If you already have your Aqara hub linked to your Apple Home, then there's nothing else to do. That motion sensor should appear in your Apple Home. If you don't already have your Aqara hub linked to your Apple Home, you'll have to do that first, but as soon as you do, you'll be good to go. After that, getting this sensor into Home Assistant is going to require a little creative engineering. So for that, I built an input boolean in Home Assistant called Living Room Motion, and I made sure to share that with my Apple Home. The idea here is to use Apple Home's automations to flip on that input boolean anytime that motion is detected, and to turn off that input boolean when motion is no longer detected. Now, for sure, there's probably an easier or better way to do this, but sometimes you have to get creative in getting your devices integrated with Home Assistant. And this is a good example of one way you could do that. Now, all we need is an automation built in the Apple Home app that when that motion sensor turns on, we turn on that input boolean. And when motion is no longer detected, we turn off that input boolean. Now, of course, that input boolean is going to be on for as long as that detection interval is set. And in my case, it's currently set at 10 seconds. And now we can set up an automation inside of Home Assistant using that motion sensor by simply triggering based on the state of that input boolean. After I got that set up, I put the new sensor and one of the older sensors together on a bookshelf and tested their response times. Now, this isn't a totally fair test because my previous motion sensor is connected directly to my Zigbee integration in Home Assistant, and this new one is passing through Apple Home. But interestingly enough, the reaction time is almost identical, which makes me think going this route might not be that bad, or at least could work in a pinch. I also attempted to use the same pattern in my Amazon Echo using the Acara skill. However, I ran into a problem. No matter what I could do, I couldn't get the Amazon Echo to trigger a routine based on the motion state of that sensor, despite having that as an option for triggering a routine. I'm not real sure where the problem lies there, but in any case, I don't think using the Amazon Echo is going to be a good way to get this device into Home Assistant. Of course, the best way to go is to integrate this directly with your Zigbee integration, and so I set this up using Zigbee to Mqtt. So I first attempted to see what this device would see if I kicked off the pairing process without making any changes to the current version of Zigbee to Mqtt, and the device as expected came up as unsupported. So I added that external converter to Zigbee to Mqtt and restarted the add-on. After that, I had access to set the detection interval and the sensitivity, as well as access to the motion sensor itself. Once that was done, I repeated the same test with the sensors on the bookshelf. And in this case, the new sensor was a tad bit slower than the older one. Although I think that was more to do with the position of the sensors since I had moved them around when repairing them. And since the detection interval is at 10 seconds, you can see how quick it resets compared to the older one. If you have the old Aqara motion sensors around your house, I'm not sure I would go out and replace all of them today. However, if you have a use case that could benefit from a shorter detection interval or adjusting that sensitivity, then I think you're going to want these. And for sure, if you're adding more Zigbee motion sensors to your smart home, I think these should be the ones you start with. The Zigbee to Mqtt integration gives you access to all of these new features inside of Home Assistant. And I suspect ZHA will as well, although if that changes, I'll make a note in the description of this video. These Aqara P1 motion sensors are out today, and I'll put a link in the description of this video to Amazon where you can pick one up, as well as a promo code that is valid until April 29th. Anyway, that's it for this video. Another massive thanks to Aqara for sending this P1 motion sensor to me so I could do this video. I will definitely be adding more of these to my smart home. If you want to help SlackerLabs in the mission to help you automate the boring stuff, you can find links to the official SlackerLabs t-shirt store as well as affiliate links and a link to buy me a coffee if you so choose in the description of this video. Or just let me know that you found value in this video by hitting that like button, and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already for more smart home content like this. As always, thanks for taking time out of your home automation projects to watch mine. Until next time, go automate the boring stuff.